Hi everyone! So it's the end of another week and it's time to talk about another book that I've been reading this week, which is Percy Jackson and the Battle of Labyrinth. This is the fourth out of the fifth book of Percy Jackson's that I've got that I'm going to be reading for this book challenge. And as with the format that's been going on for the past few weeks, if you haven't seen any of my reviews of the other books, I'll talk generally about the book and I'll talk a bit more in depth. So obviously, because it's an ongoing story, there's going to be some spoilers that'll probably come up. But you've got your word of warning here. That's the format. That's how it's going to go. So yeah. So if you don't want to be spoiled too much, then I suggest that you turn off. Even though I'd love you to stick around to hear this review, of course, it depends on if you want to be spoiled or not. Okay. So the Battle of Labyrinth, fourth out of fifth book, as I said, kicks off pretty quickly after the previous book, and Percy's starting at his new school, and everything on the opening day for sign up for the school goes disastrously wrong for him, and he meets up with Rachel Elizabeth Dare, who got introduced in the previous book, who is a character I absolutely love. He bumps into her at the school where these demon cheerleaders are around, causing absolute havoc and disaster for him. And it leads him back to camp, where they learn about Labyrinth, but it's a labyrinth which a couple of people at the camp already know about. Most importantly, Annabeth, because she's been looking for it. And it's all about this. This book is slightly different than the other ones, and especially that the ending is not very. It doesn't have a distinct ending. This one, and I think obviously the reason why is because this is the book before the big battle, so you've got a lot of build up happening. It has a comfortable ending, but you know that something's going to come right around the corner, so you're not at ease with the end of this book. It's very interesting where each of the characters are by the end of the book, how they feel through this one, because this one, again, even though it does kind of have the same structure as the previous book, it doesn't have that same balance, in a sense. It doesn't have that same flow, because there's so many up and down moments in this book. Not saying it's written badly or anything like that. The up and down moments come because there's so much going on. With the labyrinth, what it is that they need to go through this labyrinth in order to find Nico, who was in the previous book, who went missing, and it's believed that he went to the labyrinth and he found the entrance at the camp, and they're going in, and of course, just as always, well, I suppose the one occurring thing that happens through every single book, apart from the fact that Percy destroys a school at the beginning of every single book, he always has these weird nightmares. And again, he's having these weird nightmares about seeing all these things to do with the creator of the labyrinth, and they need to find that person. But that person is somewhere inside the labyrinth, so they have to go in to be able to find it. But it's a place where, doorways lead to different rooms in different universes, different countries, so all over the place. You go, you hit a dead end, you go down the corridor, you hit a dead end, so you turn around, and what the corridor that you've just come down has disappeared. It's changed route, so you never know where you are. It constantly changes. So because of that, you do feel, or at least I felt, especially with rereading the book, I don't recall feeling this way when I've originally read it, but it has been for years. That because you don't know what's going on, it's a bit disorientating. Both obviously that you're meant to feel that way because that's what the labyrinth does to you, but then at the same time, as the reader, I don't want to feel disorientated. You know what I mean? It just has it has a weird flow to it. But saying that, I still enjoyed it. It was very interesting read. The monsters, especially in this book, become very interesting. They're a lot more harsh, and the descriptions of what they look like, and you've got like one that's it's got one head with three chests, and the 100 hands creatures, with hundreds of pairs of hands and such. You get a lot more vivid descriptions of these monsters, and they're getting darker and such. But I don't know, it's that thing that obviously he's writing for a certain age group, and now they're getting older, so he's bringing in more darkness and such to it, which is understandable. But he still hasn't changed his writing style, so he's still writing. Rick is still writing for that particular age bracket. It's not like, in a sense, you could, if you think about the Harry Potter books with J.K. Rowling, she's very much, if you read the first book, you can tell she's written it for a particular audience, and then as the books progress, the language becomes a lot stronger, the way in which she describes characters, and she doesn't feel that she has to keep on going back and explaining things. And Rick doesn't go back and explain things in his books, but he still is writing kind of like as he wrote the first book, the language that he's using. So he's still appealing for that particular audience, but he is making it darker to reflect his audience growing up. So yeah, it's very interesting rereading this one. And as I said, even though there are various ups and downs with it, it was still a good book to read, and it is, building up to the last book, the big battle that's gonna happen. So I'm quite intrigued to now reread the last chapter of the Olympian series, where of course there are subsequent books that he's written, the Rise of the Olympian series and such, but I don't own them, so they're not in my book challenge. But so for me, this reread, the last Percy Jackson book is the next one along. So for me, this is going to be the final chapter for Percy in this challenge. So yeah, it'd be very interesting to reread it and see how I feel. Okay, so now I'm going to talk a bit more in depth about certain elements. So this is where the spoiler warning comes in. So if you don't want to be spoiled, turn off now. Okay, so let's first talk about who am I going to pick? Let's talk about Rachel, because I love Rachel. I think she's brilliant, and especially in this book. So Rachel is a girl who Percy met in the previous book at Hoover Dam, and she was just a girl who was there on a school trip, and she could see through the mist, and helped him out. And she thought, oh, I'm never going to see him again. That's it. Percy never anticipated seeing her again either. And she turned up at the school that he was wanting to go to. And she sort of tagged along for the ride. Now, what's very interesting about Rachel is I love how bold she is. Now she has issues. She's a mortal girl. She's not a half blood. She's not like all the other kids that come half blood. But she still has this weird, complex relationship with her parents, especially her dad. So because of obviously at Camp Half Blood, all the kids there have got a parent who is a Greek god. So they have parental issues with that Greek god because they can't grow up with them, they can't see them, they can't interact with them. So to have a mortal girl come in and have this issue, coming through with her parents and such, it does, in a sense, give that, even though she still has, issues with her parents, it kind of gives a weird kind of balance in that, you don't have to be a demigod just to have, this weird relationship with your parents. I know it sounds really strange, but I don't know, if it's a case of that if she had a perfectly fine relationship with both her parents, I'd be saying, otherwise. But it's very interesting with her, and especially how, especially when she reveals at the end that her dad is like this really, really rich businessman. She's got loads of money and everything, but he basically tears up nature and builds supermarkets and shopping centres and houses on it, and it really upsets her. And especially since this sort of Pan, and he died and everything, it really affected her. So it's very interesting how she sees the world of the demigods and such, because obviously she hasn't grown up in that environment. She sees the world in a different way, and I love hearing her thoughts and her ideas and everything, and how like there's this really great sequence where, you know, they realise that she has to go into the labyrinth with them to find the way, and she leads them down a corridor, and there's a monster at the end, and you know, and they're like monster, they're running away, they go as fast as they can, and she says, right, let's turn this way, and Annabeth gets really angry with her, and you know, she's saying, why should we follow her? She's taken us down a path already that was wrong because there was a monster down there, and she stops and basically, and you know, says to Annabeth, excuse me, I took you down the right path. That was the path that we had to go down. It's not my fault that there was a monster there. So it's, you know, it's a way of saying sometimes you just got to do these things. It's the way it is. So I like that she's very, you know, she stands by what she's done. She, you know, she's really bold. She's a great fun character. Really good friend to Percy, and I just really like her. She's a really sweet, down-to-earth girl, with no agenda of her own, and she just wants, you know, to be good friends with Percy. And yeah, I really like her. Okay, let's talk about Grover. Now, Grover in this one this is a book which really makes him stand out as being a really important character. Not that he hasn't been important before, because he's been obviously in every book. He's Percy's best friend. He's been with him from the very, very beginning. But in the previous book, he was set on a mission to go find Pan, the god of nature, and he wasn't able to find him. And then in this book, he does. And it's a really big deal for him. And then for Pan to basically say, look, it's my time to die, let me go. It's a really hard thing for Grover to do, but he accepts that it's something he has to do. He does it. You know, he goes back and tells all the satyrs and such that Pan is dead, but they won't believe him. And then during this battle, he lets out a cry, which causes Kronos' army to flee, and saves them. And it's a huge deal that he's done this, because of Pan's cry in Greek mythology. There was being attacks, and he yelled out this cry, and it established him as, you know, the god of nature and all this. And Grover has done it, and it's pretty significant for him, and he's really developed, especially in this book, and especially when Pan dies, because it's like his loss of innocence. You know, Pan was the satyr that all the satyrs know about, everyone adored, but he's never been seen. It's kind of, you know, he's almost like God, basically, to them. He's the one that they all hold in their hearts, you know, who they love and they adore, and then finding him and then watching him die, it's really significant for Grover. And obviously I know where he's going to go on in the next book and everything, so I'll talk more about Grover when I talk about the next book next week. But it's really touching where he is at the end of this book, and the fact that Percy, you know, still speaks to him as if nothing's changed, and all this lot. And Tyson as well. Tyson's become a really good friend of his in this book. So it's like he's not alone. His friends are there. They'll look after him. And it's like when you have a significant death in your life, you have support. It's there, and he has that in the form of his friends and everything, and it's really, really beautiful. Now, let's who should we talk about next? Let's talk about Kronos. Now, Kronos, he kind of he appeared as a proper form in this one. Now, he's kind of taken over Luke's body in this book. So Luke does appear in it, but he doesn't really appear in it. He's kind of there for a bit, and then he disappears, and they realise that, you know, Kronos is taking over him, basically. It's taken over the right term. Luke has allowed Kronos to use his body to take him. So whenever you see Kronos and everything. It's very much the fact that Luke is in there somewhere, but he's not there. So you're hearing Luke's voice and everything, but it's Kronos. It's really strange the way, and the way it's described is much better than the way that I've just said it. You know, obviously Rick's better eyes than I am. It's very weird, I think, Kronos, especially in this book. I mean, yeah, he's the bad guy, yeah, and everything, and he's just been building up and building up and building up, and now he's appeared. But it's kind of like, if you think about Lord Voldemort in Harry Potter, I know it's very strange, I keep on comparing Percy Jackson to Harry Potter, but they are quite similar in, you know, story and structure. I've talked about that before in other videos, but anyway, you have this build up, and then he appears, and you don't forget when Voldemort appears, because the way he is, the way he appears, the way he speaks, his attitude, the way he stands, it's so bold. But in the Percy Jackson books, I mean, obviously he's the dominating bad guy, you totally see that and everything, but for me, he's not bold enough to be a bad guy. I know that sounds really, really strange, like you have to like stand up and go, you know, I am the bad guy. You know, that's not what, I just kind of see him as a character who is bad, not a character who is purely bad and evil. He's not a Voldemort. You know, it's kind of a Severus Snape rather than a Voldemort. You know what I mean? He's to me, in my heart. I don't know if other people would agree with me on that, but I feel like he's not quite there as being a really evil character. Maybe when I reread the next book, I'll feel more, you know, about it and such. But for me, yeah, I'm not all that jazzed by rereading about Kronos again. I can't remember how I felt about him when I originally read it because it's been 3 years. But yeah, I'm really unsure about him. I'm afraid it's really strange, but you know that's the way it is. But yeah, it's been an interesting one this week to read, and I've liked other like little elements in it, like how Percy's mum is getting engaged to a really lovely guy. There's a really lovely, interesting Clarice's development in this book has been so fantastic. She's a really, really great character, is Clarice. Other little things going on around camp, and I love Tyson being always the wonderful Tyson that he is. I absolutely love him. Right, I'm going to stop there because I've been going on for like nearly 20 minutes now. But yeah, Battle of the Labyrinth, I would recommend it, but this one, it does have various ups and downs to it, but I think it's that thing that, because it's the chapter before the very last one, you've got so much information you need to plough in, there's so much stuff going on, and as I said, you have an ending, but it's not really a satisfied weight of an ending, because you know that something's going to be coming around the corner very quickly. So, yeah, I wouldn't say I'm unhappy with the ending, it's just different from the others. But yeah, so that was Percy Jackson and the Battle of the Labyrinth by Riordan. So if you read this book, I'd love to hear what you thought of it. If you want to let me know what you think, you can either leave me a comment in the comment box below, or if you want to share what you thought another way, you can give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down. Entirely up to you. I'll be back with a separate video announcing what my next book will be, which will be obviously the next Percy Jackson book, will be book 20 of my book challenge. I can't believe I'm going to be on week 20 starting tomorrow. That's amazing. Still going strong. And yeah, I will be back soon with another video. See ya!